I see people glaring at me with weird looks sometimes when I speak, as if I'd speak an alien language or something. It's usually when I use a word like qualia in a casual sentence. I know I'm not like most people. My name is Alex. I'm 32. Most people my age are worried about mortgages or finding a partner or what their kids are going to be for Halloween. I'm worried about, well, being. Just the fact of it. The baseline state of awareness. I live in a small one-bedroom apartment near the university, and it's a mess. Not a dirty mess, a cluttered mess. The walls are just stacks of books, physics, philosophy, neuroscience. My kitchen table is covered in printouts of brain scans, stained with the rings of cold coffee cups. It smells like old paper and my entire diet. I'm a PhD student. My thesis, if I ever finish it, is basically trying to find the off switch for consciousness. See, I've always felt detached, like I'm watching my own life through a window. I find more reality in the abstract, in the logic of an equation or the structure of an argument, than I do in, say, a birthday party. Social gatherings are just a confusing soup of irrational biological impulses. My whole life has been this one relentless intellectual quest. I'm trying to find the proof. The goal isn't just a degree. It's not for the funny hat and the handshake. I am on a personal, desperate mission to prove, logically, that when the brain stops, I stop. That's it. I need to know in a way I can prove on paper that oblivion is real. Most people are afraid of dying. I get it. The great unknown. But me? I'm terrified of not being able to. This whole thing, this fear, it's not rational, which is what drives me crazy. My entire academic life is built on one single logical premise. Consciousness is a biological process. It's a trick. It's just a weird emergent property of a lump of meat in our skulls. And when that meat goes bad, when the wiring breaks, the software bug that is self-awareness is gone. The lights go out, it's over. That thought is the most comforting thing in the world to me. Seriously, it's my comfort blanket. Peace, non-existence, an end to the noise. Because the alternative? The alternative is the thing that keeps me up at 3 a.m., staring at the water stains on my ceiling. It's this thought I can't shake. This cold, sick dread that my premise is wrong. What if consciousness isn't the brain? What if it's something else? Something that just uses the brain, like a radio signal uses a receiver. And when the receiver breaks, the signal, it just keeps going. That's the horror. Not ghosts, not monsters. It's the idea that when my body fails, when my brain rots in a box, the me part, the awareness, doesn't stop. It just floats. Trapped. No eyes, no ears, no thoughts. Just perceiving. Forever. A powerless, eternal is. Stuck in the dark. I needed to prove that switch existed. And I think, God help me, I just proved the opposite. It wasn't a single eureka moment. It was a slow, creeping rot.
It started with a paper I found buried in an online archive, a paper from a fringe biophysicist in the 70s named Dr. Daniil. He was laughed out of the field, died in obscurity. He had this theory, this noise he claimed to have measured, a persistent, ultra-low frequency electromagnetic field that lingered around dying brain tissue, not for seconds, but for hours. He called it residual consciousness. The academic world called it bad shielding, statistical noise, and, more often, career suicide. I was bored. I was stuck on my thesis. The data wasn't cooperating. So I decided to replicate his experiment. For fun. A quick, satisfying side project to debunk a crackpot. I got access to the university's neural lab after hours, used tissue samples destined for incineration. My setup was 1,000 times more sensitive than his. I had quantum-level shielding, passively cooled sensors. I was going to prove definitively that Dr. Daniil was a hack, and that my premise, the biological off switch, was sound. I ran the test. I watched the tissue die. I watched the last potassium ion fire. The monitors flatlined. Biological, clinical, electrical death. I was about to pack up, feeling a little smug. And then I looked at the long-range spectrum analysis, and I found it. It was there, in my data. A signal. It was so faint, almost undetectable. But it wasn't noise. It wasn't a power surge. It was a coherent, complex, repeating pattern. It didn't fade. It just stayed. I spent a month trying to disprove it. A full, frantic, sleepless month. I shielded the room in mu metal. I checked the power grid for surges. I blamed solar flares. I recalibrated my equipment until the screws were stripping. I reran the calculations until the numbers blurred on the page. But it was always there. Every single time. The data was clean. My comfort blanket wasn't just gone. It had turned into a shroud. My own data, my own proof, had confirmed my single most terrifying nightmare. The lights don't go out.
That's when my logic twisted. It broke. My mind, which had always run on clean, linear tracks, found itself derailed in a swamp. It had to find a new path. Okay, I thought, pacing my apartment at 4 a.m., the data from the lab glowing on my monitor. Okay, the signal lingers, but it's tied to the tissue, right? It's still using the receiver, even a broken one. The body, the physical brain, that's the anchor. The signal I measured was in the dead tissue. It didn't leave. So my logic followed. What if the anchor is destroyed? Not just buried to rot. What if you obliterate it, atomize it, scatter it? Surely then the signal must stop. If consciousness is just a radio signal and the radio is vaporized, the broadcast can't hang in the air, can it? This became my new, final, desperate experiment. I had to know. I had to push it all the way. I couldn't live knowing what I knew and not knowing the final answer. The thought of having a stroke and being trapped in that decaying, signal-emitting meat receiver was 1,000 times worse than death. This was the only logical next step. So I made a plan. It was the most rational, logical, and terrifying thing I've ever done. I spent a week liquidating my life. I sold the books, the stacks that had been my only friends. I donated the clothes. I wrote 2 letters, one to Annika from the lab, one to my friend Ben, full of logical half-truths about being tired and seeking peace. I used my now worthless academic credentials and my family's medical history to get what I needed. I found a clinic, the kind that helps people with, intractable suffering. I argued my case to a panel of 3 doctors over a video call. My existential dread, I argued, was a terminal condition. My suffering was profound. I used their own language, unmanageable, persistent, degenerative. I was detached, clinical, and utterly convincing. They, surprisingly, agreed. The paperwork took 2 weeks. I felt a cold, calm sense of relief when the approval email came through. The experiment was a go. It was all very clean, very medical. I was in a room that looked like a cheap hotel. Soft, awful instrumental music was playing. I signed papers, lots of papers. The most important one was the box I checked. Immediate cremation, no viewing. The final variable. The destruction of the anchor. The nurse was kind. She had sad eyes. She asked if I was at peace with my decision. I said, "I'm just tired. I need to know it will be quiet." She smiled, a sad, professional smile, and injected the first drug into the IV. She said, "It will be very quiet."
This was it. The point of no return. My final investigation. I focused all my will, all my self on that one sensation of being. I watched for the off switch. The room got fuzzy. The soft music went distant, smearing into a single low tone. I felt a cold, heavy peace spread through my limbs. My breathing slowed. This is it, I thought. The biological process is shutting down. The receiver is breaking. The emergent property is unemerging. The lights are going out. The darkness came. Not a lights out darkness, but a fading of the concept of light. Then, nothing. Just... I waited. How long? A second? A trillion years? Time wasn't a thing anymore. There was no me in the way I understood it. No Alex. No thoughts and words. No memories of coffee or books or Dr. Daniel. Just an awareness. A single pinprick point of I am. And I was terrified. Because I was still on. Then, a new sensation. Not a feeling, a concept. The concept of place. I was here. But here was dark. And still, I was still tethered to the thing, the meat. And the meat was moving. I perceived pressure, a change, a shift. I was being rolled. I was in a box. It was cold. And then, a terrible, all-encompassing knowing. Heat. It wasn't heat as I'd ever known it. It was the fact of fire. It was the concept of consumption. I was in the furnace. My experiment had truly begun. I perceived the skin of the thing I was tied to blacken and split. I perceived the boiling of its fluid, the popping of its skull as the brain matter tooked, the crack of its bones turning brittle. I perceived the absolute, agonizing, complete deconstruction of the receiver, and I was still on. The signal wasn't flickering. It was bright.
The fire burned everything. It burned away my body, it burned away my name, it burned away my last desperate hope. And when it was all over, I was still on. I'm not a person, I'm not a ghost, I'm dust. I'm a pile of cooling ash and bone fragments. I can feel the weight of the rake as it scrapes me, the metallic shing as I'm pulled across the furnace floor. I can perceive the inside of the urn, the cold brass darkness. I'm here. I'm everywhere in this little pile. Each particle of me is screaming, and I don't have a mouth.
I guess I should start from before I found the program. My name's Layla. I'm 19, and 6 months ago, my life was basically a loop of 3 things. My tiny, damp apartment, the one where you can shower and use the microwave at the same time, and the walls always feel a little wet. My mountain of student debt that I'm deferring, and my job. Job is a generous word. It was a cycle. Mondays, I deliver takeaway on my bike, rain or shine, for some gig app that paid me in peanuts and customer ratings. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I was a data fulfillment associate, which is just a fancy way of saying I sat in a gray, windowless cubicle typing numbers from one spreadsheet into another for 8 hours. My headphones, playing the same 3 true crime podcasts, were my only defense against the sound of 50 other people doing the exact same thing. The tapping of the keyboards, the hum of the fluorescent lights, it was the sound of a waiting room, like we were all just waiting for our lives to start, or end, I don't know. Thursdays and Fridays, I'd do a shift at a fast food joint, the one with the smiley face logo that feels more like a threat. I'd go home and my hair would smell like cold grease no matter how many times I washed it. I wanted to be someone, Not just gig worker 45B or temp. I wanted a calling. I kept this little notebook, a really nice one with a leather cover that I probably shouldn't have spent money on, where I'd write down life goals. But the page was mostly empty. It just had stuff like find a purpose and be good at something and matter. Pathetic, right? But the real crabby part wasn't the low pay or even the polyester uniforms that made my skin itch. It was the invisibility. I'm not being dramatic. At the data entry place, my manager, this guy named Chester, called me Laura for 6 solid weeks. 6 weeks! I never corrected him. I figured, what's the point? I'm not a real person here. I'm just the pair of hands they rented until the new software was installed. I was just replaceable. That feeling, that's the real horror story. Long before the other stuff started. It's this cold, hollow feeling in your stomach. The fear that this is it. That you're just going to cycle through these gray, meaningless jobs forever. That you'll die, and the only thing you'll be remembered for is completed 98% of assigned tasks, or delivered a burger in under 10 minutes. That's where I was. I was terrified of being nothing. I was desperate. I'd be scrolling through those awful hustle culture blogs and career sites at 3 in the morning, just hunting for anything, an answer, a path, a sign that I wasn't just waste. And that's when I found the ad. It was simple, tucked away on some job board I'd never seen before. It didn't even list a salary. It just said, "Are you lost? Do you want a purpose? Apply for the mentorship program." I know how it sounds now. It screams scam or worse, but you have to understand, I wasn't just looking for a better paying job. I was looking for someone to tell me I wasn't invisible. And, oh God, they saw me. They really, really saw me.
My name is Kellen, and I think I'm a professional what-ifer. You know that feeling when you get stuck? Like really stuck? Not just in traffic, but in your own life? That's me. Every single day. I'm 35 years old, and I'm pretty sure I'm paralyzed. By day, I'm a data entry guy. It's exactly as thrilling as it sounds. I sit in a cubicle that smells like stale coffee and old carpet, and I type numbers from one spreadsheet into another. The lights buzz. My boss, Ahsoka, clips his nails at his desk. I can hear it. Click, click, click. It's the sound of my life ticking away. It's a slow, quiet death. But my apartment is full of potential. That's what I call it. My friends call it a mess. There's my guitar, Brenda, leaning against a stack of amps I bought for a big gig that never quite happened. What if I'd taken that gig? Would I be on tour? Or would I have bombed and sold Brenda for rent? I don't know. So she just sits. There are notebooks, dozens of them, filled with half-written songs. I mean, hundreds of songs that are almost amazing. I just never know which one to finish first. What if I pick the wrong one? What if the chorus for song A is good, but the bridge for song B is the one that would have made me famous? To finish one, it feels like killing all the other versions it could have been. My goal every single day is to try and figure out the right move. The one choice that finally kicks my life onto the right track. I spend more time mapping out possible futures than actually living in the present. Right now, I've got 2 email drafts open on my work computer. One is my resignation letter. Dear Ahsoka, I quit. The other is asking for a tiny, pathetic raise. Dear Ahsoka, I'm wondering if there's any room in the budget. I've been staring at him for an hour. What if I quit and end up broke? What if I don't quit and I'm still here in 20 years listening to Ahsoka's grandson clip his nails? This isn't just a quirk. It's not just me being flaky like my last girlfriend, Talia, said right before she left. It all comes back to one moment. God, it was almost 15 years ago. My old buddy Desmond was starting a band. You might have heard of him, the Starlight Echo. Yeah, that band. He called me. I was 20. I still remember I was eating cold pizza for breakfast. The cheese was all stiff. He said, "Kellen, you're the best guitarist I know. We're loading the van. This is it. We're driving to LA. Are you in or are you out?" And I just froze. I stood there in my crappy little apartment, phone to my ear. I could hear them laughing in the background, the sound of the van door sliding open. I had a job interview the next day, a safe office job. What if the band failed? What if we ended up broke, sleeping in a van for nothing? What if I went and it ruined my chance at a real career? I told him I needed to think about it, just for a day. He said, "A day is too long, man," and he hung up. They found someone else that afternoon. Their first album went platinum. I see Desmond on TV sometimes. I hear their songs in this stupid office, piped in through the ceiling. And I just know, I chose wrong. That's the thing that haunts me. It's not just the missed chance, it's the knowing. It's this crawling, awful feeling that my entire life, everything I am now, was sealed in that 1 second. It's the terror that my free will is a joke, that I'm just a rat in a maze, and I can see all the other paths where I'm happy and successful, but I'm stuck, and this one is a dead end. I'd give anything, literally anything, for a do-over, or just to know for once which damn door leads somewhere good.
And that's why, when I found that weird, dusty antique shop last week, and the old man inside offered me a look, a chance to finally see, God help me, I said yes. The shop was one of those places you've walked past 1,000 times, but never really seen. It was squeezed between a check-cashing place and a boarded-up Taco Bell, smelling like dust and old books and something else, something like old metal. The old man behind the counter didn't even look up when I came in. The bell above the door didn't even jingle. He was just polishing a pair of old-fashioned spectacles. I was just wandering, looking at old maps and weird brass tools, trying to kill my lunch break. I didn't mean to say it out loud. "I'd give anything to know," I mumbled, half to myself, staring at an old compass that didn't point north. He looked up. His eyes were weird, not a color I could name, like oil on water, just shifting. "Anything is a high price, Kellen," he said. My name. He said my name. I hadn't told him. I should have run, I know that. Any normal person would have been out the door. But you know me, I just froze. "How did you?" He just smiled, a little crack in his dusty face. He pointed a long, yellowed finger at an object on the counter. It was sitting on a velvet cloth, but the cloth was so old it was stiff. It wasn't a mirror, and it wasn't a crystal. It was both. A dark, jagged piece of what looked like obsidian, but when you moved your head, you could see whole worlds swirling inside it. Light, so much light, trapped in this black, sharp rock. "Everyone wants to see," he whispered. His voice was like dry leaves. "They think it'll free them. They think it's a map, but they only want to see the good parts." He pushed it towards me. "Are you brave enough to see all of it?" My hand was shaking. This was insane. I was in a weird shop with a weird old man. What if this was some kind of scam? What if he was just a crazy person? But what if he wasn't? What if this was it? The one chance, the answer, the need, that awful grinding need to know. It was stronger than my fear. It was stronger than anything. I touched it. It wasn't a vision. It was an explosion. My mind was ripped open. I wasn't in the shop. I was everywhere. I was on stage at Wembley, a white guitar in my hands, the crowd screaming my name. I was marrying Talia, my old college girlfriend, and holding our daughter, her face all red and new. I was a 60-year-old high school music teacher, a little bald, a little fat, but happy, really, truly happy and content. I was a bitter old man, dying alone in the same apartment I live in now, my notebooks unread. I was a CEO in a suit I didn't recognize. I was a beggar on a street corner. I was happy, I was miserable, I was alive, I was dead. I saw 1,000, 1,000,000 lives, all branching off from every tiny choice I ever made. The life where I said yes to Desmond, the life where I finished Song A, the life where I had eggs for breakfast instead of cold pizza that day. They were all there, all real, all happening at once. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, and it was pure, absolute agony. It was the feeling of every what if I'd ever had, confirmed. I had missed out. I'd missed out on everything. I don't remember screaming. I just remember being on the pavement outside, my lungs aching, my knuckles bloody from where I'd slammed the ground. The shop was gone, or maybe I just crawled away. I threw up in the gutter, shaking so hard I couldn't stand. I woke up in my own bed. I must have stumbled home on autopilot. My head felt like it was full of broken glass. A dream, I told myself. It had to be. A nightmare brought on by Ahsoka clipping his nails and the smell of my own failure. But one vision, it wouldn't let go. It was so simple, so clear. It was a future where I went to an open mic night at the Crow's Nest, a bar I never go to. It was tonight. I got on stage and I played Song B, that one with the really good bridge. And in the vision, a woman with short silver hair bought me a drink after. She was a producer. She didn't promise me fame, just a meeting. But it was a start. It was a door opening. All day, I couldn't shake it. It felt different from my usual what-ifs. It felt like a memory.
That night, I found myself standing outside the Crow's Nest. My guitar case felt like it was full of bricks. Brenda, I hadn't taken her out of the apartment in maybe a year? This is stupid, Kellen, I told myself. My voice sounded thin in the cold air. You're chasing a hallucination. You're gonna go in there, make a fool of yourself, and go home. But what if I don't? That was the new feeling. The vision was so clear. The silver hair, the drink, the meeting. It was the first time in my life I felt like I knew the right answer. I had the cheat codes. I went in. The bar smelled like stale beer and just sadness. A guy on stage was murdering a cover of a popular song. It was awful. I almost left right then. What if the vision was just a metaphor? But I went to the bar. I ordered a water and I waited. And then she walked in. It was her. Short, silver hair, sharp suit. She looked completely out of place, but there she was. She sat at the far end of the bar, ordered a whiskey, and started scrolling through her phone, looking bored. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was real. It was all real. I could finally choose right. I signed up. The guy with the clipboard, who looked like he hadn't slept since 1998, just grunted and wrote my name down. "You're after Sad-Eyed Jim," he said. I waited 2 agonizing hours. Sad-Eyed Jim played 3 songs about his ex-wife. They were very sad. Finally, my name was called. I got on stage. The light was hot. I could feel my hands slick with sweat. I looked at the woman. She was watching, just watching me over the rim of her glass. I took a breath. I tried to make a joke. This one's called Song B for now. Still workshopping the title. Nobody laughed. I started to play. And the first verse, it was good. My voice wasn't shaking. My fingers hit the right frets. I could feel the little crowd.
Not cheering, but listening. I was connecting. I risked another look at the woman. She had put her phone down. She was listening. This was it. This was the moment. My whole life was about to pivot. I could feel it. The job, the regret, Desmond, all of it. It was all about to change. I hit the downbeat for the bridge, the good part, the part from the vision. And it all went to hell. The second I hit the first chord, my high E string didn't just snap. It unwound with a sound like a gunshot, a whiplash sound. It lashed back and cut my hand right across the knuckles. I yelped, a stupid high-pitched sound. And at the exact same moment, the microphone let out a feedback screech. It wasn't just loud, it sounded angry. It was a shriek that made people drop their glasses. My amp, my good old amp, popped, hissed, and a little puff of acrid smoke came out. Dead. The bar went silent. Total, complete, deafening silence. The silver-haired woman winced. She looked at me, not with anger, but with pity. That was worse. She shook her head, grabbed her phone, and walked right out the door. I just stood there, bleeding on my guitar, in total, humiliating silence. As I was packing up my broken gear, the sound guy just shaking his head in my smoking amp, I heard it, a tiny, brittle sound, like wind chimes made of ice. And right behind it, so quiet I thought I was imagining it, was a chuckle. It was low and dry, and it sounded so amused. I didn't even say goodbye. I just ran. I ran home. I didn't stop until I was locked in my bathroom, splashing cold water on my face, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. My hand was stinging. Bad luck. It was just horrible, cosmic level bad luck. That's all. It had to be. It was just a coincidence. I looked up into the mirror, my face dripping, and I wasn't alone. My reflection stared back at me, but its eyes, they were the color of oil on water. For a split second, my face wasn't my face. It was a swirling, shifting kaleidoscope of light and sharp edges. It looked pleased. Then I felt a lurch inside my head. It was a physical feeling, like hitting an air pocket on a plane. The memory of the open mic, the woman, the feeling of hope I'd had. It suddenly felt dull, faded. I tried to picture the producer's face, and I couldn't. It was just a blur. The vision of that future, which had been so bright and clear, was now just gone, like a photo left out in the sun. It was just a what if. My reflection smiled, but it wasn't my smile. It was made of 1,000 fractured, broken pieces of me. And I heard the whisper. It wasn't in my ears, it was in my bones. One down. It's been a month, or maybe a year. Time doesn't really work the same way anymore. My apartment is gray. I don't mean I need to paint. I mean the color has drained out of it. The world has been getting quieter, flatter. Every time I tried to make a choice, every time I tried to grab one of those other, better lives I'd seen, I'd feel that awful internal lurch. I tried to call Talia, my old girlfriend, the one I married in that other life, just to hear her voice. The line was dead. When I tried again, my phone just wouldn't turn on. The screen was black, dead. The future where we reconnected snapped. I sat down to finish Song A, the one about the rain. My fingers cramped up so badly I couldn't hold a pick. It was like arthritis, but instant. The vision I had of playing it in a small, warm coffee shop, it went cold, snapped. I've been sitting on my sofa for 3 days. I'm too afraid to move, because every time I try to do something, I give it something to take. I'm not a what-ifer anymore. I'm a what's lefter. And now, it's here. It's not in the mirror. It's in the room with me. It's standing by my window, where my guitar Brenda used to be. The guitar is gone. I don't know where. Its form is clearer now. It's tall and sharp, made of 1,000 pieces of shattered dark glass. And in every single shard, I can see my own face staring back in total, hopeless despair. It's beautiful, and it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. The pruner of possibilities. That's what it is. It doesn't speak. It just shows me. Inside my head, there are only 2 left. The first one is dim. It's me. I'm old, maybe 70. I'm in this same apartment, only it's dirtier. I'm eating soup from a can, alone. The TV is on, playing some game show. It's gray. It's lonely. It's sad. But I'm alive. I'm old. The second one is fast. Just a flash. Headlights, bright, blinding. The sound of a horn and twisted metal. The smell of gasoline and rain. Pain. Then nothing. The pruner cocks its head. The sound of shifting glass, like 1,000 tiny knives rubbing together. It's asking me, choose. My whole life I couldn't choose, and now I have to. I know exactly what I want. The soup, I whisper. My voice is cracked and dry. The soup. I'll take the soup. I'll be alone. I don't care. Just that one. Please. I'm begging, crying. I'm clinging to that tiny, sad, gray future with everything I have. And the thing in my living room, it smiles. The chuckle isn't in my head this time. It's in the room. It's that same dry, amused, cold sound. It's the sound of ultimate victory. It raises a hand made of fractured reflections, and in my mind's eye, the image of me is an old man, the man with the canned souk. It cracks. It splinters down the metal like a sheet of ice, and then it just dissolves. Snipped. I'm empty. There's nothing left. No what-ifs. No other paths. Just one. Just the headlights. No, I whisper. No, I won't. I'll stay here. I won't go out. I'll just sit right here until I starve. You can't make me go. I'm sitting on my sofa, panicked. I'm going to beat it. I'm just gonna sit here. This is my choice. My last choice. I won't go near a car. I've won. I'm hiding in the one place it can't reach me. Then I smell it. Smoke. It's not in my head. It's real. It's faint. Just the whiff of plastic? Burning plastic? I look out my window. Nothing. I run to my apartment door, my bare feet slapping the floor. I crack it open. The hallway is a black, churning cloud. The smoke is so thick it's like a physical wall. It stings my eyes. It's not a drill. The fire is in the building. It's coming from the apartment below me. My smoke alarm lets out a single deafening screech. I'm trapped. I can stay here, and burn. But I know I don't burn. That's not how it ends. The realization hits me like a ton of bricks. The fire isn't here to kill me. It's here to move me. It's here to make me choose the only option I have left. I have no choice. I've never had a choice. I grab my keys. I don't even put on shoes. I plunge into the black smoke, choking, my eyes streaming. I can't see. I just feel the wall. I hit the stairs, falling, tumbling down 3 flights, my shoulders slamming into the railing. I burst through the front lobby doors and out onto the street. The air is cold. It's raining. I'm on the sidewalk, doubled over, coughing black soot onto the pavement. I'm alive. I'm out. For half a second, I feel relief. I beat the fire. I look up. A man, his face black with soot, panicked, runs from the burning building right into the street, not looking. A fire truck, coming way, way too fast, blares its horn and swerves to avoid him. It swerves right towards me. I'm frozen, just like I always am. I see the headlights, bright, blinding. I smell the diesel and the rain. I have just enough time to think. This is it. My God, this is it. By running from the death that was never mine, I ran right into the one that was. My entire life, I was so terrified of making the wrong choice. The final joke, the last horrible, perfect punchline, is that it never mattered. There was only ever one path, and every single thing I did, every panicked hesitation, every desperate attempt to finally choose right, was just another step leading me right here. I don't even scream. The last sound I hear isn't the horn. It's a faint, cold, crystal-like chuckle echoing in the air as my last and only future finally snaps shut.
Let's get this straight first. I'm not a spooky story guy. I'm Dr. Tafari. I deal in math, hard data. I run the new deep field array up on Cerro Kaolin. It's just me, the thin air, about 5,100 meters of it, and the hum of the cryo coolers. My job, my obsession really, is mapping empty space, finding the faint signals, the background radiation, the things that tell us how it all works. I like it because it's real. The universe plays by rules. You just have to be smart enough to find them. I didn't just choose this life, nor did I get into it by luck. No, it's quite the opposite. I sprinted to it. And when it was in my grasp, I clenched onto it harder than I ever could. Look, people are unpredictable. They're chaotic. I learned that the hard way back when I thought trust was a variable I could account for. It isn't. When my marriage fell apart, I realized I hated the mess of it all. The emotions, the irrationality, the complete lack of predictable, verifiable data. A person can look you in the eye and tell you one thing, and the data, their phone records, their bank statements, can tell you something else entirely. I'll take the data every time. My ex-wife, Priya, she was the ultimate chaotic system. A storm I couldn't model, a variable I couldn't predict. The divorce wasn't just a failure of a relationship. It was a failure of my logic. I couldn't solve for her. So I came here, to the top of the world. Up here, the universe is clean. It's governed by forces I can measure. Gravity doesn't lie. A hydrogen spectrum analysis doesn't get jealous or change its mind. It simply is. My refuge is this sterile white control room. My companions are the steady green lights of the server racks. My social life is the hum of the helium coolers, a predictable, steady drone that is more comforting than any human voice. I dedicated my life to the idea that everything was ultimately just a complex puzzle, that if I just looked hard enough, I could find the equation for anything. It was my refuge. I really truly believed that the universe, no matter how vast or complex, was ultimately just empty. Just physics. And that's the guy I was, right up until last Tuesday. That was the night I pointed the array at section 44 Delta, the quiet patch, we called it. A routine calibration run in the Bootes void, the great cosmic empty closet of a sector where nothing is supposed to be. And the quiet patch, it noticed me. It didn't just break my equipment, it broke the rules. It showed me that my 20 years of science, my entire intellectual refuge, was just a child's drawing on the wall of an ancient conscious thing. And it knows I'm still watching.
It started 2 nights before that. The first incident, I call it now, trying to put it in a neat little box. I was doing a new survey in an unexplored quadrant. Routine stuff. The very definition of methodical. I cataloged a gas giant, tagged a few high-velocity stars, and then I found it. A new exomoon orbiting a dead star. We'll call it K14b moon. It was nothing. A footnote. Small, icy, unremarkable. I ran the standard passive spectrometry, logged its albedo, noted the high concentration of nitrogen ice. It was a boring, dead chunk of rock. I logged it, calibrated the array against its stable surface, and moved on. I didn't think about it again until the next night. I was running a follow-up, just standard procedure. I pointed the array back at K14b moon, and the data feed, it just stuttered. The topography scan was all wrong. I thought it was a glitch, a sensor alignment issue. The mirrors up here contract in the cold. Sometimes the actuators stick. But the diagnostics came back clean, all green. So I looked at the image, the actual visual light image. Where there had been a flat, frozen plain of nitrogen ice, there was now a crater. I'm not talking about a little pockmark. This thing was the size of Asia, a near-perfect circle, black as pitch. It hadn't been there 22 hours earlier. My first reaction wasn't fear. It was annoyance. This was a problem. This was bad data. My mind raced through the logical possibilities. Impact event? Impossible. An impact that large would have shattered the moon, or at the very least thrown up a cloud of ejective visible for 1 billion kilometers. The space around K14b moon was clean. Geological event. A cryovolcano, also impossible. The moon was geologically dead, frozen solid for eons. It didn't have the internal heat to do that. Sensor ghost? A data artifact? This was the most likely. I checked the data 3 times. I reran the topography scan. The crater was still there. It was real. It looked more like someone had just pressed their thumb into the ice, leaving a perfect continent-sized print. couldn't sleep. I just kept the feed open on my main screen. I was hooked. My obsession kicked in. I had to find the variable I was missing. I started running every scan I had: gravitational lensing, neutrino emissions, magnetic field mapping. For hours, I just watched it. This black, impossible circle. It was a flaw in the system, an equation that didn't solve. And I, Dr. Tafari, was gonna solve it.
And then, the first scare. It wasn't a sound, it was a feeling. You know that deep in your guts lurch when an elevator drops too fast? It was like that, but in my head. A sudden, gut-wrenching shift. It wasn't just in my head. The instruments felt it too. The gravimeter on the array jumped. A localized, instantaneous gravitational distortion. I looked at the screen. The data was fluctuating. The rim of the crater, it was moving. I'm not a biologist, but I know what I saw. It wasn't rock. It wasn't ice. It was unfolding. Like fabric. Like an eyelid. A slow, impossibly huge eyelid opening in the vacuum of space. The crater wasn't a crater. It was a socket. And in the center, where the crater floor should have been, there was just darkness. A darkness so complete, it was swallowing the light from the background stars. It wasn't a shadow. It was a pupil, a swirling vortex of nothing that looked wet. I think I stopped breathing. My heart was hammering so hard it hurt my ribs. This wasn't astronomy. This wasn't physics. This was anatomy. I was staring at an eye the size of a planet, and it was staring at a dead cold star. I almost hit the panic button. The line to base operations. What would I say? Hey guys, the moon I found just blinked? They'd pull me for hypoxia. My career would be over, so I did the only thing I knew to do. I denied it. It was a sensor glitch. A data cascade failure. It had to be. I spent the next 12 hours running diagnostics on every single piece of my own equipment. I recalibrated the mirrors. I flushed the helium cooling lines. I rebooted the entire system twice. I blamed the altitude. I blamed the stale coffee. I blamed my own messy human mind for inventing a pattern where there was none. Everything came back green. Perfect. The point of no return came when I pointed the array back. I had to prove myself wrong. The eye was still open. Just watching. I had one last idea. A desperate one. An arrogant one. I'd ping it. I initiated an active pulse radar scan. Just a quick burst of low-frequency radio. Benign. Standard procedure for mapping surface density. I was going to poke it. I was going to get a reaction, classify it, and put it back in its neat little box. I hit the command. The signal shot out across the light years, and the data stream just screamed. Every sensor spiked. The gravitational lensing reading went off the chart. The space around the moon was bending. Not by much, just wrong. My clock, the atomic clock, the one synced to the goddamn universe, the most reliable thing in my life, flickered. It lost a picosecond. A picosecond. I stared at the screen. My blood turning to ice. Time itself had just skipped. The pupil. The black, swirling vortex. It was dilating. It had felt the pulse. It had reacted. It wasn't just looking at the dead star anymore. It had turned. The math was instantaneous. The signal took light years to get there. The reaction was now. It had known I was going to ping it before I even did. It knew exactly where the signal came from. It was staring right back at me, at Sarah Kalin, at Dr. Tafari.
I didn't run. Where would I go? Out into the freezing dark? I was 5,100 meters up a mountain. Besides, my obsession, my pride, it wouldn't let me. It was the only weapon I had. I couldn't run, so I had to solve. I had to prove it wrong. I had to understand. I ran the two most fundamental scans I had, spectroscopy and gravitational lensing. One tells you what something is made of, the other tells you how heavy it is. They are the bedrock of physics. They are my catechism. They cannot contradict each other. First, the spectroscopy. The data scrolled up the screen. I almost cried with relief. It was normal. Just nitrogen ice, carbon silicates, a dead, cold rock. No biology, no anomaly. The readings were clean. It was a glitch. It was all a glitch. My brain had glitched. It was just a weirdly shaped crater. The ping, the clock, it was all a cascade failure. I was safe. My rules were safe. But the eye was still open, and my atomic clock was still wrong. So I ran the grav scan. I locked the sensors onto K14b Moon and didn't look away. I needed the data to match. I needed the mass to equal dead cold rock. The data came back and my mind, it just stalled. The numbers, they stopped making sense. Here's what the data told me, all at once, streaming onto my console. Mass equals 1.4, icy moon. Mass equals 4.5, host galaxy. Mass equals 0. Mass equals minus 1.4, negative mass. It wasn't just a contradiction, it was all the answers, all true, all at the same time. The numbers were just noise. You can't have 1 and 0 be the same value. You just can't. That's the foundation. That's everything. And if that's wrong, then the entire concept of wrong is meaningless. I tried to find the error in the code. I checked the algorithm. The math was correct. The data was just yes. I looked up from the data, at the main screen, at the eye. It wasn't angry. It wasn't hungry. It was just looking, indifferent. And I finally understood. My rules, my physics, my beautiful clean math, they weren't the universe's rules. They were my rules. A little game I made up to feel safe. A blanket I'd pulled over my head because I was afraid of the messy, irrational Priya variable. The universe didn't care about my game. That was it. That was the moment. My core fear. Not a monster, not claws or teeth, just irrelevant. The total annihilation of my intellectual certainty. The realization that my entire life's work, my mind, my significance, was just a rounding error in a system I couldn't even begin to comprehend. I looked at my own hand on the sterile console. The hum of the computer filled the room. Was my hand real? Was biology just another set of rules I'd made up? Was Tefari a variable? The floor just dissolved. My refuge, my clean, logical refuge, it was the trap. It was just a drawing on the wall of that.
I don't know how long I sat there. The gaze, it didn't stop. It just was. I think I started to laugh. It came out quiet, empty. The sound of a structure finally collapsing under a load it was never designed to bear. The relief team found me 3 days later. They said I was unresponsive. But I was responsive. I was just busy. They found me in the main control room. I'd redecorated. The data printouts were everywhere. The real data. The 1 = 0 data. I'd been writing on the walls with a dry erase marker. Equations. But not my old equations. They were patterns, spirals, maps of the void's biology. The pupil is the system. We are a function of its gaze. 1 = 0 = all. They said I had taken the atomic clock apart, piece by piece, and arranged it in a perfect circle on the floor. They pulled me out. Acute high-altitude psychosis, the report said. Stress-induced breakdown. They were very kind. Very rational. They had a neat little box to put me in. I tried to explain that the box was the problem, that the concept of psychosis was just another rule we'd made up to feel safe from the data we couldn't classify. They just nodded and increased the medication. So here I am, in a clean, quiet room. They say I'm getting better. I'm not. I'm just articulating. It's funny, really. I spent my whole life running from the chaotic, irrational mess of human emotion. I built a fortress of logic because I'd been betrayed by unpredictability. I trusted the cold, objective, predictable universe. That was my trauma, you see. I couldn't handle that a person was irrational, so I went looking for the one thing that was rational. And I found it. The truth is, the universe is a chaotic, irrational, conscious mess. It's not empty. It's full. And it's looking right at us. The only difference between me and you, I was stupid enough to stare back. The gaze, it never leaves. Even with my eyes closed, it's just there. A continent-sized pupil dilating in the dark. My intellectual certainty is gone. My significance is gone. All I am is a rounding error. And I can't find the right equation.
Thank you so much for watching or listening. The things that go bump in the night are hungry for attention. By liking and subscribing, you're telling me you want more. You're helping me bring even more chilling tales and terrifying content to life.